Caleb, I hate when people do this. It's the most overused term in sports. And our most overused term is generational, you and me. I mean, that's just kind of our go-to. And I think we're kind of getting bitten in the rear maybe with Nico. We'll see. But we've used that term. But the term I'm going to use that I absolutely detest in sports, and please click the like and subscribe button, is must win. Okay. Other than somebody goes home and their season is over, there's really no must win. Right, Caleb? Theoretically.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is on a larger level. It's one of the things I don't like about the expanded playoff is every game used to be a must win.
True.
But I miss the days of the must win college football games. That was my favorite era of college football. But yes, now, no.
Okay. I'm going to fly in the face of that. And I'm going to fly in the face of what I traditionally believe. I think Tennessee, Florida is a must win. And I'm not adding a caveat to any of that. Click the like and subscribe button. I believe to make the college football playoff, that Saturday's game against Florida is a must win. And that is even if Tennessee were to beat Georgia and Alabama. Now you're saying, Dave, that would be 10-2, and you'd have wins against Georgia and Alabama. Surely they would make it. Caleb, I have retorts to those comments, but I want to let you go first because I know you're not too crazy about my stance on this, but I'm going to beef it up as we go along. So I'll give you the first response here when I say that this game is a must win, because despite what happens the rest of the season, which could include a win against Georgia and Alabama, I do not believe that Tennessee would make the college football playoff at 10-2 with a loss to Arkansas and a potential loss to Florida, both teams of which I think are at best an 8-4 team this year. Could be proven wrong. But with those losses on your schedule, and I believe there will be at least 5 10-2 teams, I think that would crush you from getting in the college football playoff. So you tell me. I'm breaking an old rule of don't use must win, because it's essentially a way of just poking the bear when I was in radio. You could always get the phones lit up. Is this a must win? That's not what I'm trying to do. I just really believe that Tennessee, if they were to have 2 ugly losses, they're not going to make the college football playoff, even if they were to beat Alabama and Georgia. Am I crazy, Caleb?
You're insane.
That's crazy.
Okay. You're insane. And I'm
at a 3:45 a.m. production meeting that you would say that, so I had the button ready. But go ahead.
Okay. Let me say this up front. I would say it's a must-win because you put the pressure on them to beat Alabama and Georgia, and also it would damage the psyche of Tennessee. All those things are true. But if you say they were to lose to Florida and then beat Alabama and Georgia and finish 10-2, by the way, if they beat Alabama and Georgia, they're going to go play for the SEC championship at that point.
Okay.
If you were, provided Ole Miss loses another game, which I think they will. If you were to say that the runner-up in the SEC championship game wouldn't be able to make the 12-team playoff, that's crazy. Dave, 2007 LSU. In the BCS era, right? This isn't the college football playoff of 4 teams. This is the college football playoff of 2 teams. Only 2 teams got in. They got into the national title game with a loss at home to an 8-5 Arkansas team.
Okay,
and
wait.
a loss to Kentucky that finished 6-6.
Okay, wait. I gave you a lot of rope there, but you can't go too far back into history.
I can't, because the further back you go, the harder it is to get into a playoff with 2 losses.
Right, but I mean, you can't go too far back into history because we are in uncharted territory. We have a college football playoff committee that is going to decide these things, and I don't trust them. I don't trust them to treat Tennessee fairly. I think that was evident in 2022 when they were ranked behind Alabama despite beating them and having the same record at the time. I think that hinged on a couple of different things. One, Hendon Hooker being hurt which it's a TV show. They want the stars out there, so that hurt Tennessee, no doubt. But the other is the way they lost to South Carolina. They didn't just lose, they got hammered. Maybe Connor Stallions was a part of that. I don't know. But losing to two potentially 7 and 5 teams, including one at home, and not having a high-flying offense, which we'll see if they have later in the season. But to me, that's as harmful, Caleb, as that loss against South Carolina. You retort. It's our fiery hot Today's Tough Question, brought to you by Double D Piping.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
All right, is Florida must win for the Vols? Yes, 96%. I don't know that everybody took into account what I said, and it's not just the overall feel of the team and that the wheels could come off. It is, you've got to win this game to get in the playoffs. Caleb, your retort?
There's not going to be fewer than 4 SEC teams in the college football playoff. Can we at least agree on that? I mean, I think you guys, I think many people are getting very stuck in the 90s of this idea that there's some anti-SEC bias. It's the opposite, guys. The SEC is going to get the special treatment over any other conference. Let's get that out of the way. It's also Tennessee is going to get the special treatment because Tennessee is a TV draw. So no, there's not going to be a bias against Tennessee. At 10-2, I don't think every 10-2 SEC team would be an automatic bid. I didn't think that at the start of the year because I thought you could have 5 or 6 10-2 SEC teams. I'm wrong on that now. Dave, there's not going to be more than 3 teams in the SEC that are 10-2. So what you're telling me right now is that with a straight face, that they would take no more than 2 SEC teams, that's actually on the table. That's not on the table. There's no way in hell that's on the table.
No, I think they could take 4. So let's play this scenario out for a second. All right, Ole Miss wins out. Texas wins out or loses 1. So they're playing in the SEC championship game, right?
Yes.
So then you're 10-2. Let's say you beat Alabama and Georgia, and you're all 3 together. What are they going to look at? This is a television show.
Wait, they're not all 3 together. You've already got that mixed up. If Tennessee and Ole Miss both went out, well, then Georgia has 3 losses. They're out. Tennessee's going over Georgia. That's not a debate.
Okay, so do you feel confident that with the same record that Tennessee wins? And then we'll take it in more of an abstract view of why this is a must-win for Tennessee.
Well, do I feel confident that with the same record as Georgia? Well, if they have the same record as Georgia, then you got to go back to Ole Miss and say Ole Miss is going to lose and not have and not have multiple losses. Dave, there's not really a scenario at this point, unless you think Arkansas wins out, which ain't happening. There's not really a scenario I can see where Tennessee, I don't think there's a possible scenario where Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Texas all finish with 10-11 wins. There's too much playing each other. Now where the threat is, and I'll give you where the threat is that LSU and Texas A&M are just hovering around with 1 loss, and we forgot about them because they lost to Power 5 schools at the beginning of the year. They've won every game since. And all of a sudden, they are the biggest threats to Texas in the SEC at the moment. But there's still a lot of football to play. Those two have to play each other. Dave, I don't think it's possible that more than 3 SEC teams finish 10-2 or better. I don't think that's going to happen.
Click on the, let's switch up the poll question for a second. I want to share some numbers with you. As the poll question, do you trust the college football playoff committee when it comes to Tennessee? So change it to that because everybody says it's a must win. And from an abstract view, it certainly is. From a big picture view, it certainly is. If Tennessee were to lose 2 in a row, almost like any school with college football playoff hopes and dreams, yes, the wheels could come off. There is no question about that. And then I think you would see the continued pronounced issue at offensive tackle. if Tennessee were to lose to Florida this weekend. So I think you would agree that if they lose to Florida, even though mathematically, practically, that it's still possible for them to get in the college football playoff, they're not going to if they lose to Florida. They're not going to beat Alabama and Georgia.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. The realistic fact is they're not going to finish 10-2 if they beat Florida. I framed it in a way to make you know how to let you guys understand how you sound when you say you don't trust the CFP committee, and y'all are still willingly sounding like this. Because
when you say y'all, I'm one of y'all.
I know. So the question is, do you trust the CFP committee when it comes to Tennessee? Yes, Vols are too good of a draw. No, there's a conspiracy against UT. Come on, guys. Y'all really think there's a conspiracy against Tennessee?
Yep.
Tennessee is going to get.
Do you want to know why?
Why?
I can share the numbers with you. If you'll, you've got to promise though to be open-minded, because these are numbers that I worked hard to dig up.
All right, let's go. Hit me with it.
Okay. Who do you think the number one team in terms of television viewers was last year in 2023? What college football team?
Alabama.
That is correct. A 7.12 ranking.
Okay.
Who's number two?
Georgia?
No, but we're getting there. Ohio State and Colorado, ironically enough. Ohio State with a 6.05, Colorado with a 6 flat, Georgia with a 5.9. Now, that just sounds like a point, right? But you've worked in television. I've worked in television enough to know that 1 point on a national scale does not equal a couple of $100. It equals millions of dollars, right?
Yes.
Okay. Georgia with a 5.9. Michigan, 5.6. Tennessee, a 4.5. And then Oregon, 4.4. Texas, 4.2, which is a little bit surprising.
Wait, so name every team ahead of Tennessee again.
Alabama, Ohio State, Colorado, Georgia, Michigan.
Okay. With the exception of Colorado, which drew all their ratings in September, by the way.
And that was silly stuff. I mean, we can just go ahead and exclude them altogether if you would like.
Yes. Dave, those other four schools were bigger draws. You're skewing this a little bit because it's not like everything being equal, those schools are bigger draws. Those schools were bigger draws because those four schools were playing in college football playoff implication games in November, and Tennessee wasn't. So people were going to watch them more. Alabama and Georgia played in the SEC championship game. You don't think that marquee game was going to inflate their numbers in a draw? Michigan was playing Ohio State when both teams were undefeated. That's not going to inflate their numbers in terms of being a draw. This is what I'm talking about. Like, you can't just half the draw of TV ratings is what are the college football playoff implications. All things being equal, I guarantee you, all things being equal, Tennessee would draw just as well as all of them. But all things were not equal. Tennessee would,
no way, Caleb.
If Tennessee was in the college football playoff race in November, they would be as much of a draw as Alabama or Georgia. Absolutely.
No, and here's why. Because Alabama has won so much over the past 20 years that they picked up the Saturday alumni fans. The fans that, I'll give you an example. I used to live in Chattanooga. If you grew up in Chattanooga, you're still technically in what state?
You're still technically in Tennessee?
Yeah, but there are as many Georgia and Alabama fans in Chattanooga because why? Because Alabama was good for a long time and Georgia was rising up the ranks. Now, I understand it's right on the border and all that good stuff. But the simple fact is the same reason that my son doesn't make Tennessee football a must-watch is because Tennessee was bad for so long. During that same time, Alabama was dominant. Everybody loves a winner. And Caleb, I think that's, as much as I hate to say it, going to be a factor in the college football playoff committee.
But for one, what you're telling me makes Tennessee look good. Dave, 2022, I just pulled it up. Tennessee was fourth. Now, yes, Ohio State, Alabama, and Michigan were the top three. But Tennessee was drawing better than Georgia in 2022. So if you were to tell me that this could come down to Alabama and Tennessee, looking at these numbers now, I might be on your side. Alabama and Ohio State, I might be on your side. Those two, I think, may just be natural draws. Ohio State is the one flagship school, Power 5 school, in one of the largest states. And I mean, are they the only blue blood in a state? Are they among blue bloods? Are they in the largest state population wise? Like where they're the only school? Like, yes, Florida's larger, but there's 3 flagship schools. So Ohio State, I feel like, commands probably the most like within their state. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Maybe Penn State, maybe Ohio State and Penn State, but Ohio State more.
Yeah, I can completely roll with that.